What? Sonic's anniversary years are as mixed as the games themselves. We got great things out of the 10th and 20th, but the 25th and 30th had more announcements than anything, along with one game. And the 15th? A port that makes free online ROMs look like the PC Master Race, a game no one remembers, and Sonic 06. How sad that the game about a major competition had none. Sonic Riders was the last Sonic game released on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, just a few months after this hot topic. It's kinda hard to tell what people think of the short series, what with there only being 3 games, the middling reviews, for 2 of them at least, and the biggest source of contention in the entire series, which I'll explain later. The game starts with an opening cutscene. Nothing new, except for the fact that you're seeing something new. Instead of a CGI scene with a Crush 40 track in the background, we have a more stylized intro that wouldn't feel out of place in a 4th Sonic X season. No, not that Sonic X Season 4. It's quite nice to watch, and it saddens me that this is the only game with it. What is this music, though? The OST is a step up from the last game, but it still doesn't reach the standards of Sonic. Splash Canyon and Digital Dimension are nice, as is Metal City, but there's not much more. Catch Me If You Can didn't get its iconic status here, and Egg Factory sounds better as a short track if you catch my drift. Getting into the game, you'll find that this isn't your typical racer. It's more like the child of F-Zero and... What skateboarding games do I have? Let's see. Jet Grind Radio, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Super Monkey Ball Step and Roll, a Parasite in the Wrong Storage Tote. There's a story mode here, but its inclusion is as inconsequential as the incidents occurring in the story. Assonance. The Riders games, along with the Olympics for whatever reason, exclusively house the Babylon Rogues, Jet the Hawk, Storm the Albatross, and Wave the Swallow. Perfect mirrors of Team Sonic, only these guys are cocky pricks. Damn! Ah crap, the shadow sensor's still on. Like I was saying, they're cocky pricks who want to prove they're the best with their craft of hoverboard racing, and find the treasure of Babylon Garden. Guess who else has their eye on the prize? Dr. Eggman, looking a lot weirder this time around. The models in this game are higher poly compared to Heroes, but they're also not as sharp in places where they need to be. Everyone's also as thin as twigs. Ugh. Other than that, the graphics are fine. Eggman decides to work with the Rogues and skew the odds in his favor by hosting a Grand Prix with the Chaos Emeralds as entry fees. Does Eggman realize that only 7 racers can partake in the races that way? Well, would you look at that? 7 starting characters. It's actually pretty clever. Not much goes on beyond that, but for what the story lacks in detail, it makes up for in presentation. I said the models are rather wonky, but they're more expressive than anything we've seen before or since.
Whoa! A Chaos Emerald!
Almost anything. Let's look at one cutscene and compare it to Sonic Forces.
I think it's time to leave now. Tails?
Yeah. Sonic!
Amy?
How could you dive into Eggman knowing I was there?
Well, Amy, I thought it'd be okay with you, and,
Sonic! Come back here!
Time to tag out, Silver. I got it from here.
Well, look who's back from the dead. The little blue savior. But what's that I smell? You reek of fear. Glad to see I left an impression.
That's not fear. I ran all the way over here. And you haven't left an impression. I don't know anything about you, not even your name.
A small racing spin-off trumping a recent mainline game. I can't tell if that's impressive or pathetic. Team Sonic witnesses the Rogues, borrowing their entry fees from the bank. Wait, didn't that happen in Sonic Adventure 2? In this cutscene, Sonic does something that no one has ever done. Hoverboard I've never seen in my life? Sure, I know how to use it. The Rogues get away, and Eggman announces his Grand Prix the next day.
not just a race, but a special race to see who's the fastest.
Mike Pollock, as much as I respect you for not questioning that line, it's still a stupid line. Using the Chaos Emeralds that they suddenly have now, Team Sonic joins the races once they hear of the Rogues taking part. The first course is Metal City, and rather than describing how the game works, I'll show you a first-timer's experience on this relatively simple course. Remember, don't immediately run up.
Okay, I'm immediately running up.
Ow!
Wait, remember, I don't have to hold forward to go forward. Right?
Ah, damn!
Not C-bar. What the? I just flipped through the floor.
No, that was intentional.
Oh. Me when I get hit by a car, what button do I use to, like, beat people up again if they're close enough? I thought so.
I am running low on
I literally landed on a car. I went from, like, 3rd-ish to now 8th. I blame the car that I landed on.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sega learning curve. I touched upon this in my Knights video, but I feel this game better exemplifies it. Many games under Sega's wing believe that if you want to teach your kid how to ride a bike, toss him in front of an SCP with a ball and chain on the wheel. This isn't a simple Mario Kart, and your mileage is entirely based on how well you can grasp the mechanics, whether it be immediately like Sonic in the story intro, or over time, like pretty much everyone else. Extreme Gear runs on air. Air! It functions how gas would in any other racer, meaning these boards must be extremely flimsy. We aren't in space, how do you run out of air? Holding down a trigger to make a sharp turn, boosting with the B button, and setting down pointless tornado traps with the triggers will drain the gauge, but pit stops, landing tricks, and this is why my analog stick's short out, can refill it. In order to land tricks well, you have to hold down the A button before going off the ramp, fiddle with the controller, and make sure you don't land in the middle of one. Holding up will further your distance, while holding down will further your height for shortcuts, provided you jump well. If a player's ahead of you, they might leave a turbulence trail behind. Juking left and right can speed you up a little and, eventually, catch up to the player, but it keeps your speed constant more than anything, and it can block off better shortcuts. You can actually do tricks off the sides most of the time, and depending on where, you can access shortcuts you failed to jump to before, and in some places, that means...
Here comes the money!
Here we go.
Rings exist to power up your boost and lengthen your air meter if you collect enough of them, though it caps at 100 and you lose it all if someone boosts into you. Did Jet just sneeze on another racer? Is that how it works here? Sneezing causes bankruptcy? Okay, alright, sure, totally, absolutely. At least we know how to punish people who don't watch the intro all the way through. Finally, the character types from Sonic Heroes make a return, giving each character a certain shortcut type. Sonic, a speed character, can grind on rails. Of course, nothing in the game tells you that you have to double tap the A button, so I hope you learned that before going into mission mode. Metal City is a pretty basic course. It's mainly an oval with cars. Even though the game itself is about as easy to learn as it is to win a race on foot. I'm gonna win running, I'm gonna win running, I'm gonna win running, yes! Everything you need to know about the game is here. The ramps, the shortcuts, the pit stops, the the stick killers, turbulence. If you're new to this game, this is the course to practice on. It only gets harder from here. After some inconsequential exposition and Wave earning a spot in my top 10 worst Sonic characters list, we go on to the next course, Splash Canyon. Hey, remember how Tails could attack enemies with the tailspin in Sonic Adventure? This game doesn't. Since Tails is a flying character, he channels his inner Superman 64 for shortcuts. You'll slow down the longer you try to stay in the air, so don't think you can skip the whole course. You'll need to be a precision master with the auto slider for that. Somewhere there is a reference. Egg Factory may look long, but it's actually not much longer than Splash Canyon. Better get used to drifting though, because 90% of the turns are 90+ degrees. Punch! Knuckles is a power character, and these are the characters you want to start with. All you have to do is run into something, and it'll disappear. I mean, look at what doesn't survive here in the factory. Boom! 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 Ow, okay, not ever. Oh, fuck! After Jet earns a spot in my top 10 favorite Sonic characters list, we play through Green Cave. It's not actually a cave. It's a massive forest where everything's bigger than it should be. The grapes, the centipedes, the curves, my... Sand Ruins is the last basic course, and it makes Anakin weep. That's not actually hard, is it? If you aren't careful, the sand will push you around in the first half and you won't stay at top speed in the second half. The temple, with its multiple layers and moving pieces, feels more like something out of a platformer than a racer. Since this ramp hates my guts, I can never reach this top ledge here unless I use the fly shortcut beforehand. And that's why you don't ride something that can run out of air. In the half hour that I assume the next cutscenes take, Angel Island, Babylon Garden gets raised from the nether, Eggman heads off with Amy hanging on, and most importantly, Tails and Knuckles lose their goggles. On the way to the garden, Tails gives Sonic a new board that he shouldn't have had the foresight to make, leading to the final course.
What is it?
Babylon Garden loves its curves and hates its walls. Sonic's new board has better dash and limit stats, but its power and cornering are weaker. I would say that was on purpose, but nearly every board feels the same to me. There also happens to be a random turbulence road and... air fighters? But isn't this land from the past? Wow, the clever sons of bitches showed us the true nature of Babylon before zero gravity was in the docket. And so, by defeating Jet in a one-on-one race and witnessing Amy attempt murder, the hero's story is over. Air Skates, Cream, Rouge, and Shadow are unlocked, each of them reminding me of why I like this game's art style. See, I told you Shadow would be skating through another video. Next up is Babylon, and each course in this story is an edited version of the courses in the hero story. Night Chase is Metal City with increase. Ow! It represents the hero story opening in race form. Red Canyon is a slightly mechanized Splash Canyon with another cave to fly through. The sun's gone and the shortcuts are better. Ice Factory starts off the same as Egg Factory, but after the second jump, it's almost a completely different course.
All the racers are totally focused on the race.
Why is Omochao here when Storm's supposed to be by himself?
Don't you see? As the leader, you've got responsibilities. Some you understand, but you...
Is this how it feels to drink energy drinks? White Cave is simply Green Cave on a diet. That's not snow. My copy of the game refuses to let Jet drown in a bunch of coins spat out by a red box, so we're going straight to Dark Desert. The only similarity this has with Sand Ruins is the theme. The temple interior is a real slog if you can't fly or use grind rails. Am I just going to fly through the center harmlessly? I'm not disappointed. Sky Road is a shorter, less visually interesting Babylon Garden with better shortcuts that holds no story relevance. Seriously, the only things Tails, Knuckles, Storm, and Wave are doing is running away from egg ponds. Unlike the hero story, this isn't actually where it ends. Jet opens the way into the garden's center building, causing everyone to get starry-eyed and follow him. What do they find? Eraser Jin if he had a bird obsession. Thanks, I hate it. This is one of the clumsiest bosses in the entire series. You play as Sonic, for some reason, and race through an oval trying to smack the Babylon Guardian's lamp. Problem is, you have no way to upgrade your boost, the bare minimum in keeping your air up, and if you're struggling to hit him, it can last forever. He starts attacking you on lap 2, but it barely matters unless you're using the hovercraft. I can't even blame the genre, because Zero Gravity did a much better job of the boss. According to those who've played it anyway, I still haven't. Once the giant space flea from nowhere disappears, Eggman shows up, guns ready, and claims the treasure of Babylon for himself. It's the access board from the shop, but worse. Hey, at least Eggman finally won, right? Right? Eggman, the Magic Carpet, Air Bikes, Digital Dimension, and Babylon Guardian are unlocked. Digital Dimension's a weird course. It starts off as hell, then it becomes heaven, and then it's nothing, all in one lap. Wait a minute though, we still aren't done. If you want a complete file, you have to tackle the Grand Prix and mission modes. There are 2 Grand Prix, one for the starting tracks and one for their Babylon counterparts, both of them having better AI opponents. Completing one gives you Sega Carnival, and the other gives you Sega Illusion. These are, without a doubt, the best tracks in the game. Fan service aplenty, great design, and the best music track in the game. I may have said this OST isn't all that special, but Sega Carnival is the clear exception. This one track did a better job celebrating Sonic and Sega than the rest of 2006. As for mission mode, you play as Team Sonic, Amy, and... Cream for some reason, as they thwart the missions that the Babylon Rogues have. whether it be doing better tricks, collecting junk to unlock new gear, destroying a specific thing, or some other weird stipulation. With how you have to have every course in order to complete the mode, I think of it as a mix between Mario Kart DS's Mission Mode and Ring Target from Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. And just like Ring Target, some of these missions can piss off. When you're trying to go for gold anyway. These missions where you have to keep your gear speed over 140 are both the easiest and hardest missions at the same time. Completing all the missions unlocks II, Ooh La La, my self-promotion machine, and some Sega-themed boards. But getting gold emblems in all the missions unlocks Supersonic. Now, last time Supersonic was playable, he was the destroyer of souls. Here, not so much. Don't get me wrong, he's got great stats and can use any character shortcut, but he runs off of rings like the crazy, and they drain faster than air does. He's still the best character in the game, he's just got a quirk you have to adapt to. Another thing you have to adapt to is Mike Pollock suddenly turning into Dean Bristow.
Do you think you can beat me?
I'm guessing Sega was too lazy to have Pollock record new lines for gameplay? All that's left is the other modes. Tag mode has you tethered to your partner in a 2v2 race. It's painfully clumsy. Survival mode has you collecting upgrades as you try to take out your opponents in one of 3 arenas. This control scheme isn't really suited for enclosed areas, but it's better than tag mode. There's also a race variant where you play keep away with a Chaos Emerald. It's okay. What else? You can buy different kinds of gear from the shop. Some have some odd effects like the crazy running on rings, or getting access to different character shortcuts, or the Opa Opa summoning anvils for its boost. The Hang-On and Super Hang-On boards have a neat Easter egg in that the music changes when you choose them. The Hang-On will play its main theme, which I honestly don't like since it's too repetitive, and the Super Hang-On plays Outride a Crisis, which has actually been growing on me. Play on Night Chase as Dr. Eggman using one of these boards, it'll fit better than you think. There's no one broken gear in this game. Some are pretty good. The Omnipotence can access every character shortcut without being a short fuse like Supersonic, but it can't gain air from them. The Legend always has a maximized jump, but it can't get air from jumps. Finally, the Light Board holds on to speed boosts longer, but if you fly off a ramp without jumping, it's not very consistent. Now, while there isn't an amazing gear, there are certainly some bad ones. The Trap Gear and Slide Booster disable your boost for things that don't justify it. The Speed Balancer is too stiff at turning to not be shit. The Hovercraft is too loose at turning to not be shit. And the Cannonball doesn't use any energy boosting. Oh, I'm sorry, that sounds great, doesn't it? Well, boosting with them doesn't hurt anyone, it has 0 in every stat, it can't recover air without pickups or pit stops, and those unlimited boosts are weaker than Bubblers in Sonic 4. Why does this cost as much as the Destroyer bike again? I've got some advice if you want a complete file. Buy the Gambler before anything else and grind out races. The Gambler by all accounts is a bad board. It's a bit of an air muncher and it disables character shortcuts, but winning doubles your ring count and you aren't likely to aim for 100% unless you're good enough to win consistently with it anyway. A Grand Prix can give you up to 1500 rings, and the time you spend is time that goes toward unlocking the E10000 robots. Green takes 20 hours and red is 50. Although I guess you could just pull a Melee Mewtwo and keep the game on until enough time has passed. Well, guess I'm done. Sonic Riders is an acquired taste. Its learning curve is, for lack of a better word, extreme, and it's not a very large game. Despite that, it's a fun time if you can get over its starting hurdles, and both the visual style and cutscenes make the game ooze with charm. Everything about Riders screams, I do what I want and I do it best, and that was the goal in development. If you've got a friend over, don't hesitate to play this game. They can learn how it works in due time. I did, and so did one of my multiplayer guests. Oh, he learned alright. Sadly, I don't have any more fun multiplayer footage to show. No, I totally didn't have to scrap the multiplayer footage I had because I lowered the volume setting on the wrong input, thus making it impossible to hear me or my friend with all 15 minutes we spent on that stupid Play-Doh genie being for nothing. Won't that being the second time I was having multiplayer problems since I ended up recording the Shadow co-op footage twice to no avail, thus forcing me to resort to subtitles because of what made the Riders footage unusable, meaning I released a Shadow video a week late for nothing? No, that'd be silly! Happy Halloween, everyone! I'm getting a fucking drink!